Are you interested in Medicare? Well, too bad, because here comes the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. A podcast that makes mincemeat out of Medicare, my man. He almost beat the sun in a staring contest. Almost. It's Medicare expert Doug Jones.
Clarence, where are we?
We're Creekers. We're in Cave Creek.
All right, there you go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. And I found a lazy man. I'm pretty excited about it. My only college friend. I've been telling you guys for years that after 9 years in undergrad, I managed to come out of school with one college friend. And I snatched that guy off the street today, dragged him in here, stuck him in the studio, and he is joining us as an in-studio guest. So please welcome Clarence and Kramer to the Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. Clarence.
Yes.
Glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
You're quite welcome.
And Randy normally is the numero uno, but he's got to take a back seat because we outnumber him 2-1. How you doing today, Randy? He's completely silent.
I hit the wrong button. I'm so excited we've got a guest now. I hit the wrong button. I'm doing really good, Doug.
And this is a fascinating experiment.
I am very excited to have a guest.
Well, it's nice to know that I have another friend besides you, huh, Randy?
Well, I figured you had many, many friends. You're just being very humble. Doug's a very humble person.
You would be wrong about that. Anyway, as our regular audience knows, we're here to help people feel confident about the transition from Obamacare to Medicare. If that transition is approaching for you, then I want everybody in the audience to know that it's not going to be a scary, mistake-prone, horrible time. It's actually possible to be happy with the transition. You'll probably have better insurance protection against expensive medical bills, and it'll probably cost you less than you're paying now. At least that's the case for most people. So welcome to the new world of Medicare if you're approaching your Medicare transition. So often on the first episode of our 2-episode recording, I play that radio spot that Randy and I concocted. And I see no reason not to do that right now, in spite of the fact that we have an in-studio guest. So I'm going to ask him to put a lid on it and just sit here quietly and think about things. And Randy is going to play that spot. Medicare is complicated. Medicare can be confusing. Medicare is no fun to study. Will you know what decisions to make when Medicare time arrives for you? My name is Doug Jones, and I wrote a book to help you figure it all out. Medicare for the Lazy Man. It's on sale at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Also, you can download and listen to my podcast, Medicare for the Lazy Man, wherever fine podcasts are given away free of charge. Medicare for the Lazy Man, simplest and easiest guide ever. All righty. Thank you, Randy. I'm sure everybody appreciates being reminded how they can access all the information that we have to offer. Most of it's valuable information, I'd like to think. So anyway, Clarence, tell us all about yourself. What are you doing here?
Is that enough?
That's not much.
Oh,
There has to be more.
I am enjoying life in retirement for my 15th year.
You retired 15 years ago. That sounds to me like you used to work for some kind of government.
You got that right.
Yeah. So he was about 40 when he retired. Jesus Christ. My career choices. Oh, boy. So what did you do before you retired? You worked for Pinal County. I can tell the audience that.
I was actually for the State Superior Court in Pinal County.
Oh, okay.
And so I was the director of a conciliation court where we did marriage counseling, divorce mediation, custody evaluations, and the like.
Cool. And you kind of created a little empire for yourself there by striking off on your own and inventing
Yes.
a conciliation process. Is that correct or not?
Correct. Yeah. I was the first director. After being there a year, I was a counselor for the conciliation court and juvenile court.
Mhm.
It didn't have a director because they just referred everything up to Phoenix. So then I took over and we developed it.
my favorite definition of conciliation that you told me one time, it's a process of helping people get divorced without killing each other.
Well, that's the mediation. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. I just want to make sure that we're portraying a clear understanding of what you used to do.
Yeah.
And then when that retirement day came, as I recall, you were counting down for a long time. You were looking forward to walking away from that.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because the judges, when I said I'm going to retire, well, can you stay another year? And then a new judge would get elected. Well, can you stay another year? And so I stayed probably 3 years longer, which was fine. I liked what I was doing. So
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it's nice to be wanted. It's nice that they wanted to, keep you on for a while. But on the other hand, you had other dependents in your life to take care of. You want to talk about those at all?
Sure. Well, my 4 dependents with 16 legs and fur.
Yeah.
Dogs.
Oh.
I had mostly Weimaraners. All of them were therapy dogs, and we visited hospitals and nursing homes and domestic violence shelters and juvenile courts. And so I spent time volunteering doing that. That was part of my retirement.
And did that come to a halt because of coronavirus, or was it?
Yes, my Silver Lab's a therapy dog, and I was getting one of my newer Weims certified. So I just stopped.
Okay, I got you. So now you can basically lay around in your underwear and watch TV all day. Don't have to worry about that community service type stuff, huh?
And my what?
In your underwear. I'm speculating here. I don't actually see this happening, but well, I was wondering what you're doing now that you don't go around to the hospitals and nursing homes. Do you have any other activity that takes up a lot of your time?
Yeah, I run the dogs in the morning, and I'm a cyclist. I do quite a bit of bicycling.
That's about it, huh? Jesus, God. What a waste of oh, excuse me, I didn't mean that. All right. Well, I was just wondering about your facility with dog psychology, because you seem to have spent a lot of time transferring your human behavioral knowledge to dog behavioral modification and training and all that stuff. Your dogs are always, fairly well behaved. You get problem dogs from these rescue places that seem to know when you've got an opening. You're on speed dial at a lot of these places. And then you wind up with a dog. I remember you had to spread chicken wire around your baseboards in one instance to prevent damage to your house while you trained a dog not to eat drywall.
Oh, yeah.
That was accurate. Okay.
Sure. And I had mouse traps on counters with newspapers on them and scat mats where they'd get a little shocked if they did. Well, that particular breed, Weimaraner, is known as counter surfer.
Oh,
they get
cool.
up there, they open doors. I had one that would open the refrigerator, open cabinets. So they're really.
That might explain why I don't have 4 of them.
Yeah, that would be.
I don't have the patience, but it seemed to me that you could have maximized some revenue or gotten some revenue from sharing your knowledge about dog behavior modification with the public. I think there are a lot of people. When you go on that next door, that stupid. Well, there are a lot of people with dog problems.
Yep. And
I think a lot of them are just they're not disciplinarians. They don't set up a measurable, action reaction kind of thing, so the dog knows what behavior is acceptable and what behavior isn't. Would I be correct about that?
Yes. Many of them don't actually do research before they get a dog. So, if you're going to get a Weimaraner, it's highly active, one of the most active dogs that you have to exercise it constantly and challenge it. So it's not that destructive. And a lot of people, it's the first time they have dogs. So it's just really simple things. And I've helped people like that over on the internet, answering questions, etc.
I know every time I've gone into your house, it's been a frightening experience. If you're not there, I'm never going near that joint. But it's like having 4 Shetland ponies trying to trample you to death. There are 3 now, I guess. But at least they behave better than they did when each of them was brand new. They were all troubled at one point, weren't they, pretty much?
Pretty much.
Well,
except for the seizure dog.
Oh, yeah. Well, we hadn't discussed that one, but go ahead. Let us know what the seizure dog is.
Their owners couldn't deal with the seizures anymore, so they took it to the vet to have it put down, and they were talked into. I can't imagine that they had to be talked into surrendering it. So I went and got it, and boy, I'll tell you that was an experience. I didn't think I was going to be able to keep doing it, but that was almost 4 years ago.
Was it the frequency of the seizures?
The
Or-
frequency and the severity of the seizures and all the cleanup, when
Ugh.
the dog has a seizure, they lose control of all
Everything.
bodily functions.
Right.
And, and it was always at 10:30, 11 at night. And so she is on 3 different seizure medications 5 times a day. So I get up at 4:30 and her last one's at 8:45 p.m. So,
Jeez. That sounds disgusting. We had years ago when our kids were little, we had an Irish setter.
I
And-
remember that dog.
Yeah, it was a beautiful dog and well behaved, but it loved to wander. And we lived on 86 acres, and people from 2 miles away would call and say, "Hey, your dog is over playing with my kids. Go get it." And so Mary got this 50-foot long chain, tied it to a tree. And the day she snapped it to the dog's collar, the dog went into a seizure immediately and just kept having seizures. Now, has your seizure dog improved, or have you just learned how to manage?
Well, it improved some. But there were still quite a few. And recently, she's been going 40 or 50 days without a seizure versus 3 or 4 days without one.
That sounds like an improvement. What do you attribute that to?
I think the meds. I don't know what else. I mean, she's not a normal Weimaraner. She doesn't show much of a personality. She's drugged. She gets a.
That's what people say about you.
Well, yeah, that's why I have Weimaraners
Well, there you go.
on meds. That's what my meds do to me too.
I'll take some of those meds someday, see what they do for me.
Yeah. So anyway, I forgot where I was. But
Well, I just was asking about the improvement in the dog that
Yeah.
has seizures. There has been improvement. Yeah, it's more manageable now than it used to be.
right, I can get up to 6.5 hours sleep now.
Jeez. Well, I guess that's something.
Yeah.
The 6.5 is not going to do it for me.
No, me neither.
As you can tell, I need my beauty sleep, but
You do that.
that's a horse of a different color. Anyway, so we've kind of followed your life from your birth in Chicago. We kind of didn't touch on any of that up to your end of your career when you became retired and became a full-time dog counselor, I guess. But we didn't touch on the fact that when you turned 65 or when you retired, I guess, and decided to go on Medicare, that you accidentally found probably the best source of Medicare information in the whole wide world. Is that true or not?
Of course.
Okay, there you go. I was hoping that's what you'd say. And so what you'd bought, based on my recommendation, was a Medicare supplement. You have regular Medicare Part A and Part B, and you have a Medicare supplement, but you have the high deductible, actually Plan F, because Plan G didn't exist. And have you had any regrets? Often people say, "Hey, I don't mind taking it because I love the low premium. That high deductible plan sounds good to me until I get sick. Then I'm going to be screwed." So my question to a plan holder is, have you ever had a year when you regretted having the high deductible plan?
No, not at all. I've never used any premiums. I've never submitted anything.
So you haven't had any big medical expense years that cost you more money out of pocket?
I don't think so, because when I went into the hospital for atrial fibrillation.
Well, there you go. One day in the hospital is going to.
Well, yeah, I got all these bills and I said, "Could you submit these to Humanicare?"
Right.
And they said, "No, we got to do that." And that's the last I heard from them. That was almost a year and a half ago.
I'm wondering about the billing process in America, because as people in the audience know, I was back in Illinois for about a month and a half, emptying out our house that we've been trying to sell for a bunch of years. And when I got back here, I felt like poo-poo doo-doo. And so I went down to our new little 8-bed local hospital and I said, "What is wrong with me?" And they said, "Well, what do you think's wrong with you?" And I said, I said, besides my friendship with this bonehead, I think what's wrong with me is that I have walking pneumonia and God knows what else. Jesus. Did you bring any of those things with you? I told you to leave them home. What the hell?
I have one in my pocket.
All right. Well, keep it there, will you? And so they said, "Okay, well, we'll be the judges of what you have." And then they came in and said, "Well, you were right, sir. You have pneumonia and COVID." And so then I started getting bills from them for that one treatment, that one visit there. And every time I'd call them up and I'd say, did you send this to Medicare? Oh, darn it, we forgot. Okay, throw it away. And then here comes another bill in a couple of weeks. Did you send this to Medicare? Darn it, we forgot to do that. Okay, just throw it away and ignore it. Finally, I just stopped getting bills.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to have to pay anything for that visit. It seems a little weird.
You will when they take a batch of them and give them to debt collectors. You'll start hearing from them.
Hopefully, I'll be pushing up daisies before that happens.
Yeah, I'll be pushing up dogs.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to tell anybody in the audience about your burial plans, your estate planning, because it involves the dogs, and I can picture them sitting there with glasses on and at desks with writing instruments in their paws and everything else.
Playing poker.
So I was trying to think of how we could make this interesting for the audience. And I can tell that's necessary because Randy's having trouble holding his eyelids open. And B, actually have some Medicare content. And so what I thought I'd do is maybe try a few Medicare trivial questions to see how well Clarence does, because he's had a Medicare advisor that's done all his thinning for him. And I'd like to think that he has paid attention over the years and has a clear grasp of Medicare.
I know nothing.
Plus, every time I do this with Medicare factual information, the most severe critic always gives me a higher score. So I like that. So let's try this quiz. It's from Medicare Interactive. I found it on the internet, and it says free quiz. That free part is one of my favorite words. And so just randomly going after some of the questions here, Clarence, individuals need to have a certain income in order to be eligible for Medicare. Is that true or false?
False.
Okay, he's right about that. This is going to be a real exciting segment, I can tell. Here's one. Mr. Jones. What a fantastic name. Mr. Jones is disabled. He's 62 years old and works for a company that has 80 employees. All of this is important now. He has both original Medicare and insurance from his employer. Mr. Jones needs medical care. Generally speaking, answer A, his current employer insurance should pay first on any medical care he receives, and Medicare should pay second. Or B, Medicare should pay first on any care he receives, and his current employer insurance should pay second. Or C, Mr. Jones will most likely have to pay for the medical care out of his own pocket. Or D, Medicare will pay for the entire cost of his medical care. Which of those four answers do you think is going to be the right one?
A.
God damn, I swear. Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You cannot have both Medicare and Medicaid. Is that true or false?
Well, that's kind of a trick question, but I'm going to go with the false.
I had to come up with something easier, and you are right about that. Medicare Part A generally does not cover. You know, he's watching his soap opera.
That might have been my oil change people.
What are they saying?
I don't know.
Don't ever come back?
They left a message. I don't know what they're saying.
Boy. All righty. So Medicare Part A generally does not cover which of these things? 1, hospice. 2, inpatient hospital care. 3, home health care. 4, doctor services provided in hospital settings. Which of those 4 things does Medicare Part A not cover?
I don't remember what Medicare Part A is.
Yeah, there you go. Loser.
Same again?
Hospice, inpatient hospital
I
care.
go with hospice.
Okay. Randy, do your buzzer. I have to listen to that every time I say something wrong. Okay. The correct answer is doctor services provided in hospital settings. That's covered under Medicare Part B.
Okay.
Yep. There you go. You were very close.
My second choice.
Yeah, you were so close. So close. Which part of Medicare will usually provide coverage for immunosuppressant drugs? Part A and B, or Part B and D, or Part A, or Part B?
B and D.
Okay, let's see if you're right here. I actually have a cheat sheet. And I don't know. I crossed out that answer. I wrote Part B and then crossed it out. I believe immunosuppressant drugs are administered in doctors' offices typically, and you're an outpatient. And typically, outpatient costs are covered by Medicare Part B. And so I believe that's going to be the correct answer. but then I drew an X through it on the cheat sheet. So frankly, I don't really know. And I'm sorry I even asked you that question. We're sneaking up on 20 minutes. How about you, Randy? Is your clock in agreement with that? It might be
According to the clock on the wall, yes, we are coming down to the end of our gasoline for this trip. And we probably need to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too, because since we didn't plan, which is acutely obvious now, I don't want to torture the audience any longer than our promised 20 minutes. But I do want to thank Clarence for being here. You've certainly made the whole experience a lot more interesting. Now people know I actually have a friend besides Randy. So I think that's important for my personal reputation. And I want to thank you for showing up today.
You're welcome. Why do you keep calling me Clarence?
What would you prefer that I call you, Clarence?
Oh, dear. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Clarence, Mr. Clarence Kramer, for joining us on Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast. You are one of the premier visitors we've ever had. I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you taking the time to do it. And also the audience, I thank you for taking the time. You could have been 153 different places, but you weren't. You were with us on Medicare for the Lazy Man podcast.
Excuse me, Randy. Can we ask Clarence to stop snickering while you do your close?
Well, it's really kind of called, I'll just kind of filter it out.
All right, very good.
I'll
good.
Filter that part out.
Yes,
anyway, the bottom line is we thank you for joining us. And before we sign off, as always, as the production engineer of this crowd, I would like to encourage you to write Doug. He gets all excited when he gets email, and you can write him at dbj@mlmmailbag.com. You can go to amazon.com and buy a copy or two of the paperback, this year's paperback for Medicare for the Lazy Man. It's one with the green 2022 cover. Or you can pick an audio or a Kindle version, or I think that's about it.
That ought to be enough. That ought to be enough for anybody.
So in honor of Clarence being here with us, we're going to have a special offer on the paperbacks. You are going to be able to go to Amazon.
We're speechless.
You're going to be able to get 3 copies and pay for 3.
That's exciting as heck. I don't know how long we can afford to keep that sale going, but that's a brilliant idea. That's going to move them off the shelf faster than we ever have before.
So anyhow, thank you for joining us again. You have just spent about 32 and a half minutes with Doug Jones, the anti-insurance guy from Oklahoma, now residing up in the upper altitudes of Cave Creek, Arizona. I think we're at about 16,000 feet now up above. Behind Cave Creek. He hangs out in his yard with a pair of binoculars watching over the city to make sure nothing goes wrong.
Goodbye.